And April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. It's a time to draw attention to the importance of protecting kids in our communities.
And one group is doing just that. The Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center, actively supporting families through prevention, advocacy, and much more. Joining us now, we've got the Executive Director, Rebecca Yuncker, is with us. Becky, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. First, before we get into all the work that you guys do, let's just start with the basics of what is the Northern Michigan CAC.
So Children's Advocacy Centers are a place for children to come when there's concerns that they're a victim of a crime. So we do that forensic interview. We work closely with law enforcement when those kids have to be interviewed to determine if they've been abused or not. And not only that, then we know how important follow-up services are. So after that forensic interview, we provide advocacy, we do medicals, and we provide all the mental health services.
Gotcha. And you're based in Roscommon, right?
Correct.
But you serve multiple counties, so give us kind of the lay of the land for what you guys do.
Yeah, so the majority of our services are in Roscommon County, but we also have a satellite office in Iosco, which is Tawas. But we do service Crawford, Ogama, Oscoda, Otsego, and then Iosco and Roscommon. Oh. So we have the two buildings, or two place for services with the 6 counties.
All those counties. Plenty to keep you busy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about those services and therapies that are offered.
Right. So it's just like we were talking about prevention and health prevention, we know how important it is when kids are a victim and they have a history of sexual abuse, how important that prevention is to get them the help that they need. By getting mental health services when kids are experiencing trauma, we know we can prevent long-term issues for those kids. That's when kids are dealing with depression and suicide, and then they start all those mental health issues that kids deal with when they have experienced trauma. So we provide those services at the center and get them the help they need, so really to help combat those long-term effects of trauma.
I know there are children's advocacy centers all over the state, and sadly we've done stories about how they are being overworked in a lot of ways. I mean, on the one hand, it's great that you guys are there to help with those services and therapies in need, but on the other hand, it's incredibly sad just to know how busy you are.
It is, and COVID was really not good to our children. We had our cases skyrocketed after coming out of COVID. Kids weren't around mandated reporters, and so people weren't reporting abuse. We see on an average 350 children come through our center that need to be interviewed in regards to concerns of abuse.
That's really sad.
It is.
That's really sad. I know, I've gone to, for example, the one up in Traverse City on a news story before, and obviously the confidentiality is paramount, so, that's understandable. But even just pulling into the building and then kind of being ushered back into a back room for an interview, you get the sense of just how important all of that is. It's especially heartbreaking when I, show up and there's, for example, a Michigan State Police car in the parking lot, and I know that, wow, something has happened.
They're there for a reason.
Yeah, and like you said, more than one a day, and just in your 6 counties, right?
Correct. And that's really what we want to do, is provide that safe, friendly environment for kids. We really focus on being trauma sensitive and trauma informed, working closely with our partners, law enforcement, protective services. So when they do have to come in for that really scary interview, we're doing the best that we can to provide that safe environment for them. And then all the follow-up services. If that child needs a medical exam, they can have that medical exam done right at the center, and then the advocacy support that we provide them and the mental health services. So we want to do everything that we can to wrap those services around those kids.
And Rebecca, I'd love to know what makes you passionate about serving our communities and these children.
I've been working in children's assessment centers for over 20 plus years, and I think our kids just deserve the best. And I moved up here from Grand Rapids and realize that Northern Michigan sometimes it's difficult to access services. And I just feel like all of our kids, whether you're being abused or not, if there's concerns that you're being abused, you deserve the best services possible. And Children's Advocacy Centers do that. We're accredited by National Children's Alliance. Like you said, there's several of them in our surrounding area, and we want to provide the best services for those kids.
One question I haven't asked, not just you, but anytime we've had a CAC on with us, something you just kind of alluded to, if you know of a child being abused, talk to us about not only the mandated reporters and maybe what that means for folks who aren't familiar, but also just the average person. Hey, I see, I don't know, a parent being aggressive on the ball field or at the grocery store. Like, when do you make that call, and when do you just say, oh, I don't know what
Right.
I don't want to get involved?
It is. It's very scary, and people don't want to get involved. And you don't want to accuse somebody of something,
Right.
sometimes without knowing the full story. But the beauty of being a reporter, whether, like you said, a mandated reporter, there are certain professions that you are mandated to report by law. But ideally, everybody should report child abuse and neglect. If you see something, if you have concerns that a child is being abused, if you're just that person a child trusts and they, confide in you and tell you that these things are happening to them, we need everybody to report child abuse and neglect. By just calling the 1-800 child abuse hotline, you can get all that information on our website. But by calling and reporting your concerns of abuse, that's the only way we're going to stop and help prevent that future abuse from happening.
Does that kind of a call go to a advocacy center? Does it go to
No, it
human
does.
social services?
Right. So it does go to, the hotline goes right to, it's based out of Grand Rapids. And so it's a agency that just really handles all of those calls. So it's the clearinghouse. So the clearinghouse for abuse and neglect. And when those calls are made, then that clearinghouse, they decide where it needs to go. Does Children's Protective Services have to investigate this? Does law enforcement have to investigate that? And then when it is a child sexual assault case, child abuse case, then they generate those cases through a Children's Advocacy Center. So they're utilizing the Advocacy Center after a report is made.
Well, bless you for all
Yeah.
the work you do, because I can only imagine
Yeah.
the toll it takes on you after
Absolutely.
20 plus years. A lot of important things
Yeah.
that you're doing.
And it's really rewarding when we work on a team where we
Sure.
see kids healing and getting them
Right.
out of that. So even though how devastating this work is, it is so rewarding also.
In our last minute here, talk to us about that prevention piece and what you do to try to
Yeah.
get the word out. I mean, what can us common folk, what can
Yeah.
we do to be
So
helpful?
there's a lot of layers of prevention, that primary prevention where we are in schools teaching kids body safety, teaching them to tell and find safe adults to talk to. And then that secondary where we provide intervention when we have concerns. So on our website, we have a program, it's called Keeping Kids Safe. And going to that website, you can access a 45-minute video. That video really walks you through signs and indicators of abuse, what you can do just as a lay person who has concerns, and then how to make that report. And it walks you right through that step by step making a report, because that's the only way that we can address the issue and keep kids safe is by all of us working together and reporting when we have concerns.
And lastly, I know as well, you guys can benefit a lot from donations, whether
Yes.
it's someone who has a personal experience or just tugs at their heartstrings through
Yes.
any other circumstances, so people can go to your website for that too. So
Correct.
really wanna
Yeah.
make sure we get that.
We have
Okay.
a lot of different ways to donate, so please check us out.
Excellent. Becky, thank you so much. Rebecca Yuncker,
Thank you.
Northern Michigan Children's Advocacy Center. Great to have you with us for Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you. Yep.